I would see Kansas City as a team being on the outside looking in.
That's spicy. Having a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge? Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. Today is Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022, and joining me once again is Rich Jodice. You know him better as Pro Football Demon. Rich, this is getting to be a regular thing, and we're going to keep this running with weekly appearances at minimum during the season. We're just over 2 weeks away from real meaningful NFL football, but how are you feeling, dude?
As a Jets fan, I'm feeling a little concerned, but I'm very excited to be here, though. I love doing these shows.
As an NFL fan, I don't want you to focus too much on the Jets fandom right now. You might end up a little sad. You're still supposed to be hopeful at this time of year. Your hope is already getting taken away from you. I apologize. But, Rich, you know how the format works. We've got questions we're going to ask each other. We have not prepared or shared with each other at all. As always, you know you get you win the coin toss. Would you like to ask or receive the first question?
I will ask the first question.
Okay. Nice. Doing the kickoff, hoping to get the ball at half.
That's right.
With that being said, 30 minutes of football with Legit Football starts now. Go ahead and kick. Okay.
This is going to be fantasy football centric. Most of my questions today. And this was actually a story in the Legit Football newsletter. A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, the 1A and 1A.
Mm-hmm.
So now Aaron Jones is going late first, early second, and in most standard drafts, 12 team. Dillon is going mid to early fourth. You can likely, if you have that pick at the turn in the first round, you can likely grab a Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift. Let's say you do that. Comes back around to you and Aaron Jones is staring you in the face. Do you go with the second running back? Do you go with Aaron Jones, or would you rather take one of these guys, a non-running back, to maybe bolster a different position with the hopes of getting an A.J. Dillon later on, who might even have more production? So the names, I'm going to throw 5 names out at you. You let me know if you would take Aaron Jones in that scenario or one of these players. Do you have any questions about this before I...
Perfect. You explained it wonderfully. Let's hear it.
Perfect. Okay, first guy on the list is Josh Allen.
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends. Are we talking Superflex league or regular?
I'm going to say a standard league, not
standard
Superflex,
league.
Yeah. Superflex.
We're talking the turn of the second round, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Aaron Jones. A little too early for a quarterback for my taste.
Okay. Travis Kelce.
Also going Aaron Jones, specifically because I'm concerned with Kelce's
Okay.
age.
Now taking into account you took Nick Chubb or Austin Eckler, one of those guys.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, still would go to running back there.
Okay. CeeDee Lamb.
That is juicy. I might take Lamb there. I think he's just going to get a ton of targets as easily the top wide receiver and pass catcher in Dallas.
Just for the record, I would probably go Allen and Kelce, but I would probably take Jones over Lamb. So
I'm avoiding Kelce at that ADP. I'm not going to take a guy who, you can say Hill is gone, but I think they're going to spread the ball around a lot more in Kansas City. And he's 33 or he's turning 33. So tight end is such a physical position. It's a little bit different than quarterback. So that's a little too rich for me.
That's been my argument, but just really quick. If I'm thinking I can get that Aaron Jones production in the 4th round, perhaps, or maybe in the 3rd round, Kelce offers that big upside where I can get that advantage at tight end. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, perhaps.
Fair.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek, yeah.
Okay. Or A.J. Brown.
Either one. A.J. Brown, same thing.
I think I would do that too.
I think all the reports out of camp from both of those guys is that they are fitting in amazingly with their new teams, and they're going to get a lot of opportunities to produce. And because I've already got a running back in this scenario, and because you've got a guy who, according to the reports, and this is what we put in Legit Football, this is not a 1A, 1B situation. Like, Dillon is going to be getting what Aaron Jones gets with the advantage of probably more goal line work. So there's a higher touchdown upside. And Aaron Rodgers himself has said that he could see both Jones and Dillon getting 50 receptions. So you can't even say, oh, Aaron Jones will get all the pass catching work. No, Dillon has shown to be a very capable pass catcher. They're going to be splitting out 50-50. There's going to be opportunities where they're both on the field, and you add in the fact that Dillon will get more of the goal line work, and I really like the value of Dillon. So except for like the quarterback position in a standard league with 4 points per touchdown, I'm probably going with those other guys.
Now let's add one additional layer to this really quick. You go back around and Dillon's there. You took Aaron Jones. You have the two running backs. You took Aaron Jones and Dillon is there. Are you doing that?
Two in the that's too much for me early on in the same backfield because I feel
now it's intriguing because if Aaron Jones goes down, AJ Dillon is top possible league winner at that point. So,
that's true. It's weird. It's like a quasi handcuff because you're picking the guy, but they're not a handcuff because they're both going to be starting. I don't know. They're just putting 2 draft picks on the Packers backfield that early. It's one thing if you get Dillon later, if you can get a steal on him. But I would pass.
It's tough. It'd be tempting, but it's tough. But that's all I have for you in that first question.
I like that pick. So I do have some fantasy questions, but we're not going to start with fantasy. We're going to start with the top story from today's Legit Football, and that was Lamar Jackson. So we put out in this morning's edition that he is seeking Deshaun Watson money, meaning not necessarily the number itself, but he wants his contract fully guaranteed. As a reminder, Deshaun Watson got a guaranteed salary of $230 million, where reportedly, the Ravens have offered Lamar somewhere in the Kyler Murray contract range, which is a guaranteed of $103 million. So my question is just this. Should Lamar Jackson get that guaranteed money? I actually put the poll up on Twitter today as well. It already has over 500 votes, so this is a hot topic. So according to you, Rich, not will, but should Lamar Jackson get a fully guaranteed contract from the Ravens?
I think he should just because the standard has already been set by the Browns. That they gave it to Deshaun Watson. Now, if you're in the Ravens situation, we've both been in situations where our teams have not had a franchise quarterback. You know how long that can linger. The Ravens do have a franchise quarterback. Now, again, we've talked about Lamar Jackson's limitations as a passer, but he can also do something that no other quarterback in the history of the league can do with his rushing ability. That also, he can pull in a defense and free up his receivers in that scenario, which also makes him a better passer. I think you if that's what he wants and you have this mid-20s superstar quarterback, I think you have to give him what he wants. Or are you going to risk losing him? You're going to risk having him hold out next season, and then what do you do at quarterback at that position? Tyler Huntley looks good in preseason. Great. They're not going to go with Tyler Huntley over.
He's not Lamar,
Jackson.
Not by any means. Yeah.
So it's tough. But 5 years from now, are we looking at that guaranteed contract saying, "Wow, Lamar's getting so much money right now"? Probably not. It's tough because of the way he plays the position, though, because there is a high risk of injury with the way he plays the position. So guaranteeing that money, I understand what the hesitation might be in that scenario, but again, it's so hard to land one of those stud quarterbacks, one of those top 10, top 15 guys. I mean, you can go for decades without having one of them. And when you have one of them, I think you give the guy what he wants and you just play it out. He's still in that window where that rushing ability is going to be effective for him. Mm-hmm. He can still do what other quarterbacks can't do. So when you're in that window, I think you give him that money.
Yeah, I'm actually in complete agreement. Besides the fact that he's elite at quarterback, this is a guy who's already won the MVP. So we have seen what his ceiling can be. You've also catered your entire offense around him. And even amongst elite quarterbacks, his skill set is so unique. He's not just a running quarterback. He provides such an extra dynamic as a runner, as a former 1,000-yard rusher that you just can't duplicate even with other mobile quarterbacks. Even a guy like Kyler Murray. And some of the things that people have brought up on Twitter for the poll is that, I'm not going to pay that for a running back, that whole glorified running back, or he's too injury prone. First of all, last year was the only year he's been injured. He actually, because of his elusiveness, he's very smart as a runner. He rarely gets hit. And he wasn't even hit last year. It was more just like an ankle turn thing that ended up being problematic. But also,
he missed 5 games, I think, right? It wasn't like he missed.
Right. He wasn't out for the year. Didn't tear an ACL or anything like that. But it's so hard to find any elite quarterbacks, and it's especially hard to find a mobile quarterback like Lamar. He truly is one of a kind. He's already won you an MVP. You've got a great roster around him. It might hurt for Baltimore to do that. This is not something they've ever done for any player, but I don't really see what other choice they have.
I don't see what other choice they have. And he does work on his passing ability. Again, he's not an elite passer. You'd love your quarterback to be an elite passer. That's not what he does. But what I love that he does is he knows how to lure a defense in. So that'll just get the separation for the receivers, for Mark Andrews, for Isaiah Likely now. We're seeing Isaiah Likely's all over the place. I am so high on Rashad Bateman this year. I think this guy is a phenomenal receiver. He already knows how to get separation. And when you add that layer onto it, I think he's going to explode. But I agree with everything you said.
Awesome.
So, all right, I'm going to do a buy sell. This is a legit football edition. So each of these topics have come from the legit football newsletter. Okay. So are you buying or selling these scenarios? James Cook will be the Bills' primary ball carrier by the end of the season.
Selling.
You're selling.
Yeah, and here's why. A lot of people forgot about Zach Moss, but he's actually had a great camp, and he's shown to already be splitting a lot of that backup role with Cook. And you still have Singletary, who actually finished as one of the better running backs in the NFL towards the end of the season last year, and he's also having a good camp. So the fact that those guys are just going to be the end and Cook's going to be the primary ball carrier, no, I'm definitely selling that. Could he see some touches, especially in the pass game? Yes. Could he be the future primary ball carrier over the next 2 to 3 seasons? Absolutely. This season, no, selling.
Okay. Gabriel Davis will play more snaps than Stephon Diggs this season.
Play more snaps?
That was in the legit football letter saying there's a possibility that could happen.
Yeah. I'm selling. I think he's going to be on the field just as much, though. I think he is the clear-cut, far and away number 2 receiver, and he's shown at the end of the year and in the preseason so far that this guy's a legitimate top maybe 30, maybe even 20 wide receivers. So you've got him and Diggs. The Bills run a lot of 2 and 3 wide receiver sets anyway, so I don't see a lot of scenarios short of injury where they'd have Davis in instead of Diggs. But I see a lot of scenarios where if you have 2 wide receivers on the field, you got Diggs on one side and Davis on the other.
I'm not buying Gabriel Davis this season. Romeo, is it Dubes or Dubs? Because
it's actually neither. It's Dobbs.
Dobbs. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was Dubes for a while. I heard some media folks calling him Dubs, but we recently found out it's actually pronounced Dobbs.
Okay, so Romeo Dobbs will break the rookie trend with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and finish with over 1,000 receiving yards this season.
Buying.
You're buying that. I'm buying
I
that.
am very high on Dobbs. I drafted him in both of my dynasty leagues. Drafted him. So this wasn't a guy I picked up after all the hype. I just really liked his skill set and the opportunity in Green Bay. I've been pleasantly surprised by how quickly he's come up. Don't get me wrong. And I drafted him in a best ball league that I'm in the middle of right now. And with a few redrafts coming up, I'm going to be targeting him and hopefully he's not on too many people's radar.
Are you taking him over Pickens? We touched on that last week, but...
That I have so far. In my best ball, I took Dobbs first. Pickens went shortly after that. It's all about opportunity. And we've been seeing, actually, now they've been moving Chase Claypool in the slot, and which surprised me a little bit with Deontay Johnson and Pickens on the outside, meaning Pickens is going to get a lot more play than I thought. But I like the quarterback play, obviously, better in Green Bay, and I just think there's going to be less spreading the ball around and more opportunity if Rodgers really hones in. Maybe to Lazard and Dobbs. I just think he'll get more opportunity than Pickens. So slightly, but it's not a big difference.
Okay. Isaiah Likely will finish as a top 10 tight end this season.
Top 10? Yeah. I'm selling only because it's so hard for rookie tight ends. It right. Just universally, the best tight ends that you see perform. Like last year, Kyle Pitts he had a very good season. That was historic for a tight end. And even then, there were ups and downs with that Falcons offense. Nobody was saying, wow, this guy's like Jamar Chase blew everybody out of the water. I wouldn't say Pitts blew everybody out of the water. I think he probably will this year. But there's just such a big learning curve. And you have Mark Andrews there. I do think what's interesting is I think Baltimore's going to be using Likely a lot as a receiver primarily, meaning he's not going to have as many of those blocking tight end requirements that they have from a guy like Kelsey or Kittle or Andrews as the primary tight end, mainly because Baltimore doesn't really have anybody. You mentioned Bateman, but after that, who's Proche, however you pronounce it.
Duvernay, they have. I know that.
Duvernay, but Duvernay is kind of more of a specialty, like a speed guy. He's not a guy that's going to be a solid wide receiver too. I think James Proche has been the guy they've kind of targeted as that wide receiver too, but he hasn't been near as exciting or electrifying as Likely has. So I think you're going to see him on the field a lot. Could that lead to enough production, even if he's lined out wide, to have the tight end designation? So it's possible, but just because of historical precedence, I'm going to sell.
All right, we're creeping up on halftime here, so I want to let you get a question in.
Okay. So this could be considered fantasy or NFL. DeAndre Swift, running back for the Lions, recently told reporters that his personal goal, and this was in Legit Football on Friday, is to reach join the 1,000 club, meaning 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards. My question is simple: is that realistic?
In today's NFL, I don't think so. With the way backfields rotate, and I don't see him as a guy that's just built like that to get 1,000 rushing yards and also 1,000 receiving yards to last that duration of the season. It's easier to do now with the extra game, but Jamal Williams isn't going to just disappear
Right.
out of that backfield. I don't know how many games the Lions will be playing ahead from this season, so in garbage time, maybe getting some of those receptions, could he creep up on 1,000 receiving yards? I think that's more likely than the scenario where he gets 1,000 on the ground. But I would say I would pass on that. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, completely agree with you here for a few reasons. I mean, you kind of hit on all of them. Jamal Williams is a very capable second back that they're going to want to get involved. They had the Panthers, the last time a running back hit both, the Panthers really almost had to force feed McCaffrey a little bit to make sure that he hit that number. Even if you've got 60 or 70 receptions as a running back, it's not like you're out wide getting, 8 to 10 yards per reception. So you need just a ton of receptions to hit that 1,000 receiving yard mark for a running back. It's just something that just is rare to happen. So the odds of this happening are very slim. I'm selling. I'm against that. Quick thought on the Lions for our last 20 seconds before halftime. Are you starting to buy the hype with Hard Knocks and everything?
I had the Lions at 9 to 11 wins. I think I mentioned that to you.
Nice.
I know
that's buying. That's
I know
buying.
that's bullish. Yeah, I know that's
Wow.
bullish. But I do.
I'm high on them, but I don't. 11 wins. Wow, I'm loving it. I'm finding them spicy. I'm really gonna be paying attention to them this year.
Yeah.
All right, that is our halftime chime. So you guys have already heard us mention. I'll mention it every time. If you're not already a Legit Football subscriber, Rich is literally using the Legit Football stories as a means for his question, which I absolutely love. I do the same thing with my prep. As a reminder, it's free, 100% free. All you got to do is legitfootball.com, enter your email address. You're going to get the top 6 stories from the NFL 5 days a week, 100% for free, delivered to you every morning, all year long. We're working on some cool ideas on content for during the season, whether we recap the individual games or whether we just give you the top stories to know from that weekend. But the best is yet to come. Go to legitfootball.com, sign up for free. Rich, why don't you plug Pro Football Demon for us?
Pro Football Demon on TikTok, YouTube. Give me a follow if you enjoy skits with. I throw a lot of comic book references and all these other references in there. You really have to pay attention to catch them. They'll be in there. Real quick, I just want to say regarding Legit Football, I am a fan. If Brian and I weren't doing this, I would be a fan. Many of us rely on experts and analysts to give us our takes on things. With Legit Football, you can just become the expert because everything is right there for you in small bite-sized pieces. You don't need to rely on hearing someone else give you a take. You can just get it all right in your email, 5 minutes a day. You have everything you need to know, and it's phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah,
he doesn't pay me to say that either. That's coming right from my heart.
Don't listen to us jokers. Just read the newsletter. You don't have to listen to me and Rich talk about ADP and Isaiah Likely. Just go to Legit Football. We're the jokers, and we're happy to be the jokers. Awesome. Thanks again, Rich, for the plug. I am refreshed and ready for the second half. How about you?
I'm always ready. Let's go.
Fantastic. All right, so let's get started. I asked you the last question with DeAndre Swift, so question comes from you.
Okay, now this is another fantasy question. Saquon Barkley. He's going in the late second round of drafts. Again, right at the turn, 12-team leagues. This is a guy who is obviously an injury concern, but has league-winning upside if he hits. I have a list of players, again, who have an ADP right around where Barkley is going.
I love these questions.
Yeah. Would you feel more comfortable taking one of these guys and perhaps lessen the risk, or are you going in on Barkley at this point?
We're talking late second, right?
Yeah, late second, yeah. First guy I have on the list is Mike Evans.
Yeah, definitely going Barkley at that point. And here's why. I'm going to give my thoughts on Barkley, and then we'll go into the individual comparisons. I'm starting to dig it at that ADP. I'm starting to feel like there's a lot of reports out of camp that he looks like the old Saquon. he didn't really have an injury history in college, and he had an amazing rookie season, and it's just really been the last 2 years. So I'm hoping that's just a little bit of bad injury luck that regresses to the mean this year. So I'm starting to feel it. I don't think I'm ready to invest a first rounder, but late second, I'm feeling Saquon. So you're going to have to give me some spicy picks. Mike Evans, he's already got he's got injury history, and he's already kind of seeing that. So I'm going Saquon there.
And you think Brady could fall off this year? Which
that's kind of I hate to say that because I know he's going to prove me wrong, but I may or may not have a Brady question coming up, so we'll dive into that a little bit more later.
Tyreek? I think I'm going Barkley still.
Yeah, I think so. I think if he was with the Chiefs, I would probably go Tyreek, but there's still I'm a Dolphins fan, but there's still so much uncertainty about how much usage he gets, whether he can really hit the numbers that he hit in Kansas City with Tua. So I think I'm going Saquon into second.
And Leonard Fournette. I think I'm going Fournette.
I'm not.
I think it's safer.
It is safer. I will say that the floor is safer, but I think in the second round, I'm chasing a little bit more. Late second round, I'm chasing a little bit more ceiling. I want my first round pick to be more of a lock. We're talking end of second round. So if you're in a 12-team league, you've already had 20-something guys drafted ahead of you. I'm chasing the upside of Saquon over Fournette. I'm not huge on Fournette. I think a lot of his production last year came from the fact that he was surprisingly used in the pass game.
Yeah.
But you've got Rashad White there now. I think you've got other catching options. So I think Fournette sees the pass catching go down.
Last three guys I'll just group together. If any of these guys, A.J. Brown, Zeke, Deebo Samuel.
Zeke, absolutely not. 100% going to take Saquon over Zeke. A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown's intriguing.
I think he's the one I might go Brown. Yeah. I think of those guys, I might go just because we already know his capabilities, and just reports out of camp is that he's just getting peppered with targets, and that Sirianni is making a point to have him be a focal point of the offense. So I just really like that connection. I think he's going to be such a good value at the end of the second round. Deebo, he's on my dynasty league. He led me to the championship game last year, so I'm high on Deebo in general. But I just think that he's had injury issues in the past. Second round might be a little rich for me, so I'm going to go Saquon there.
And Brian Dable with Saquon Barkley is so intriguing to me. Brian Dable will know how to use him, I think. And if he's healthy, I think he's going to get a ton of production. That's all I have for you right now.
Great. Just going to reiterate that I love these kind of buy-sell comparison questions. It just makes it nice and succinct. All right, so let's stay in the fantasy realm. Who is rising up your draft board right now? I'm assuming you have leagues that haven't actually come in yet, or you haven't drafted for yet. So who is somebody maybe that either wasn't on your radar? It doesn't have to be a rookie, but that as you get closer to your drafts, like this guy keeps popping up in your head, and he's kind of moving up your personal draft board.
James Conner. Because
rising, interesting. Let's hear it. Okay,
rising.
that was unexpected. I love it. Rich always gives the spicy takes. Let's hear why you think so.
James, and I have a question if we get to it later about this too. But James Conner is a guy where he's going, and where I'll just look at it right now. We have guys that are going around that area, and I didn't expect James Conner to do what he did last season. He can be effective in the passing game, and they're not afraid to use him. From the standpoint of will he be guaranteed production? Yes. Do I think Benjamin's going to cut in? No, I don't think Benjamin. Now I do think if the Raiders cut Kenyon Drake, which they may, which I saw in the Legit Football newsletter also,
they're likely to unless they find a trade partner. Either way, he's going to be out of Vegas. Yeah.
Would Arizona take another shot at him given the production that he had in Arizona? Now that could hurt James Conner if that happens. So that's a scenario that's in the back of my mind. But aside from that, I think I trust him over some of these other guys. I mean, we have I'll parlay this into another question, but then I'll get your take on who you want. But Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Elijah Mitchell, Josh Jacobs, those are the guys I'm looking at. And to me, James Conner's the safest one. All those other guys, everybody has question marks there, but based on what he did last season, I don't know that I see that unless he gets injured, which with James Conner is always a concern. I don't see his production dipping. So I think I feel safer with him over some of those other guys. Might be more of a home run hit,
right.
But like Cam Akers or J.K. Dobbins. But I think I'm going James Conner. He's moving up a little bit for me.
So here's my thoughts on Conner. I have him in the same dynasty league where I have Deebo. So I'm relying on him to be productive. But historically, he has never, including last season, never played a full season of games. Not once. He has had injuries every single season. Some of them more minor than others. And last year, he scored a total of 20 touchdowns between rushing and receiving. He only had, I believe, about 23 total across 4 years in Pittsburgh. So this, to me, is a little bit of an outlier season. From the injury and from the production standpoint, I think it was just one of those things where he was just in the right place. Now, he made some great plays. He was very efficient. But prior seasons, his average yards per carry is like 3.7. It's just his efficiency metrics aren't great. A lot of what he had in Pittsburgh was due to volume and due to playing behind a great offensive line. So that's my concern. Now, some of those guys like Elijah Mitchell, I agree with you. Akers, there's injury history there. He's going to be splitting carries with Darrell Henderson. Sean McVay has said that he believes those two guys are two starting running backs. But I think Dobbins really intrigues me. This is a guy who was really high on draft boards prior to tearing his ACL last year, in training camp. And I just think that when that Ravens offense is rolling, it's a run-first offense. So I think there's a running back who, if he's healthy, can really take advantage of that from a productive standpoint. So I would take Dobbins over him. But most of those guys I would take Connor over, but I don't know that I would rise him on my draft board. So it depends on the value that I'm getting there.
Yeah, Dobbins, I can see that. I can see taking Dobbins over him. With Connor, though, I just think that touchdown upside. You don't have to worry about him getting sniped by Kyler near the goal line. He's going to get the goal line touches, and their offense is efficient enough to be in those situations where they're in goal line scenarios. So I think, he can have games where he's got 3 touchdowns and maybe, 50 rushing yards. So that's why I'm moving him up a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. If I have a guy who's rising up my draft boards recently, and we've talked about a lot of the rookies, so I'm going to pick somebody besides a rookie. And it's not that he's a sleeper or anything, but Darnell Mooney. I
love Mooney.
Sure volume. Other than Cole Kmet, they don't have any really established receivers. I'm seeing that Equanimeous St. Brown is a guy who's going to, and Byron Pringle, those names don't really scare me as far as taking opportunity away from Mooney. He's already shown his talent level, but we're also seeing reports in camp that he is just kind of taking the next level from a skill perspective, and he is very much dialed in with Justin Fields. So I'm really he's riding up my personal draft board as a guy that I'm going to try to target maybe ahead of his ADP, because I just think talent plus opportunity, it's just overwhelming with regards to Mooney. So that's my personal.
He's fast, and Justin Fields throws a deadly accurate deep ball. That they work well. Very.
But he's also going to get targets. He's going to in a PPR league. I just think he's going to get peppered with targets because there's not a lot. They're going to be playing from behind a lot, and there's not a lot of other people for him to throw to.
Right. All right, so I'm going to list off a few receivers that are all going in or around the 4th round. They all have question marks going into the season, but if you're hell-bent on going receiver in the 3rd, 4th round, right at that turn, you have all these guys staring in your face. Which one do you think is the safest pick? I have Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson.
Pittman, absolutely. I think Pittman is due for a monster year. This guy's already a 1,000-yard receiver in his 2nd season. He had a huge upgrade at quarterback. And even though I really like Alec Pierce, he's another guy that I got in my dynasty drafts. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's already kind of slotted in as maybe the number 3 behind Paris Campbell. It's Pittman. It's the Pittman show in Indy. I think he's going to get lots of targets. He's going to get end zone opportunities. He's just a great all-around wide receiver 1. Highly intriguing. I want to mention one thing, though. I keep seeing these turns. Are you asking me questions based on your fantasy draft that's coming up? I feel like you have a pick towards the turn.
No. Come on. I wouldn't do that.
It would be fine. I have no problem with it. I'm starting to see a pattern here. But yeah, I'm liking Pittman. Are you kind of aligned with that?
It comes down to the quarterback for me. Which quarterback do I trust in all those scenarios? And Kenny Pickett, if he is starting, that is intriguing for me, just because of the way he's looked. I think he'll be accurate. I think he'd work well with Deontay Johnson, but I trust Matt Ryan way more than I trust any one of those quarterbacks in that situation. So, yeah, Pittman's the guy I would go with.
Yeah,
I want to write that down so that I can remember it.
There you go. Please write down your draft picks and give me credit, and I should get half of your winnings if I'm right.
Okay, excellent.
I put up a question from the chat from Gage Gardner, specifically because you just mentioned Pickett and Johnson. So give your thoughts about why you moved Johnson down and let's say Pickett is the starter or the QB situation in general.
Okay, the QB. I know we touched on this last time I was on, and we talked about when we think Kenny Pickett might start. I said maybe around week 4 or 5. I'm
Mhm.
starting to think the only thing that's keeping me from outright believing he will be the starter week 1 is just Mike Tomlin might not put him in that situation.
Yeah.
But I think he should. I think he should. Everybody talks about Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. If he cares about that, then fine. Maybe throw Trubisky out there. You have a better chance of having a better record and maybe not making the playoffs. I think just get Kenny Pickett as many reps as you can. I think he will give you the best chance to win, honestly. With any rookie quarterback, there are going to be some hiccups along the way, but they're well coached. He's got weapons around him. I think it's a perfect scenario. The offensive line has some question marks, but I like Pickett there. Do I think he's going to be this incredible, top 5 quarterback? No, but he will. I think he's the best quarterback on the roster right now. I'm not sold on Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
And that's why if Pickett was starting, I might have moved Deontay Johnson up a little bit. Putting Pickett against Matt Ryan, that's what it boils down to me, but he would be right outside that. But yeah,
and the Steelers have so many people to distribute the ball to. But quickly
right.
on the QB situation in Pittsburgh, I was just on a podcast where I said kind of the same thing, echoing what you and I talked about last time about when we thought Pickett might start. I do think Pickett's going to start at some point. I'm starting to move it up mentally just based on how he's performed in the preseason so far and Mike Tomlin's words. He has said recently that the QB situation, as far as who's going to start week 1, is not completely decided.
Right.
And as far as upside and talent at this stage, Pickett is more enticing to me than Trubisky, and Rudolph's not even in the conversation.
Right.
Do I really think Tomlin's going to start a rookie in week 1?
That's
Probably not. That's the question, but I think it's my initial opinion is bumping up earlier. All right. Thanks for the question, Gage. So we said we're gonna talk about Brady. Got a little over 2 minutes left. So just as a quick recap, I'm sure everybody followed it. Tom Brady just decided I don't want to practice. I'm going to disappear. I'm not going to tell anybody where I'm going. Maybe he told the Bucs and they didn't feel like telling us, but nobody in the media knew where he was. Cue the rumor that he's on The Masked Singer. That got a lot of that was, fun to kind of track. I didn't really believe it, but it's like, I can't completely discount it. Right. Comes back, and apparently he was in the Bahamas. But here's my question. You mentioned earlier that I'm not high on Brady, and once again, I do that at my own peril. I'm sure it's going to come back to bite me. But this is a guy who just retired and came back. And then come practice, he's like, I'm good. I'm going to go to the Bahamas in the middle of training camp with rookie wide receivers and teammates and an offensive line in flux. I'm just going to go take a couple weeks and go do my own thing. So my question, Rich, is Brady checked out on some level, even a little bit? That psycho-competitive edge, has that dimmed a little bit?
It's funny because I touched on this in one of my most recent skits. I don't think he wants to be in Tampa. I don't think the plan was to be in Tampa. I think he had, we're hearing this Dana White rumor that he was ready to go to the Raiders. He was going to play in Bay, was looking for houses. And then we had this whole Miami situation that would have played out. That likely would have played out if we didn't have that whole situation that happened in the offseason. So is he checked out? Hearing some of his language last season too, talking about how guys need to get their heads in the game. He's coming from the very buttoned down New England football lifestyle, where everything is, bam, by the book, to Tampa, which is, let's have cocktails after practice. I think it was a little refreshing when the year he won the Super Bowl. It was a new scenario, new situation. I think he liked it, but I think it's starting to get a little old, and he might be a little bit checked out as Tom Brady can be.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think he's completely checked out, or else he just wouldn't have come back. But it's like his advantage is that competitive edge, and even if it's a tick down, that's why I'm not as high on players like Evans and players like Fournette and Godwin. And the Bucs in general. I just feel like this might finally be the season, just because he's just not at 100%. Even if it's 98%, that affects his play.
Let me say one more thing. I know we're done here, but just to add to that.
There's been a penalty. Last play, untimed down. Pro Football Demon, go.
Everybody talks about that Brady-Belichick situation. Brady won the divorce. But now when I look at that, it's that if Brady doesn't have Belichick there to kind of handle those players and get their heads in the game for him. Not that Brady couldn't do it on his own, but that helps. Knowing that you have someone like Bill Belichick there who is on the same page. Maybe you guys don't agree 100% on everything, but mentally you guys are zoned in. You guys are on the same page. I think he misses that in some respects.
I think you're onto something when you said it was refreshing at first.
Yeah.
He gets to be funny on Twitter, go on commercials, have a relaxed atmosphere, win a Super Bowl, and then he's like, well, wait a second, now I don't like this. I want to get back to militaristic approach. Thanks, guys. That was an awesome show, as always. I have recently been inspired. I think we're going to do, and I'm sure you're down for this, Rich, but I'm just volunteering you anyway. We're going to do like a questions from the crowd episode where you and I will take turns answering questions that come in, as opposed to you and I prepping questions ahead of time. So we'll kind of pick a date offline and of when we're going to do that. We'll make sure to promote that so you guys can be around, because we're always getting questions in the chat, and you and I have prepped questions, so it's a little hard to address them. But I want to do an episode prior to the start of the season where you and I are just kind of taking turns asking or answering questions that the audience gives in. And for those of you who listen to this on podcasts, I don't really mention this. We do the show live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on my personal Facebook. So if you've never checked it out and you want to check it out live, just look for 30 Minutes of Football on YouTube or any of those other platforms. Rich, how you feeling? Do you feel like your performance came to play today?
I wish we can go another 30 minutes.
Yes.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guess what? We're going to be doing more of this during the season, so there'll always be time. And I mentioned in a past episode, we're going to think of ways to kind of have maybe like an overtime. And we're also going to have a prediction show with Rich as well, which we also need to schedule, where we're going to predict everything that's going to happen. We're just going to tell you. We know the future. We're just going to tell you what happens. Rich,
and I have a lot of hot takes, as Brian knows. So
that's for sure. Yeah, that's why we keep bringing you on. That and the unsolicited plugs for Legit Football. Guys, thank you so much for those who are watching, especially those live and in the chat. Thank you for those who are listening. Thank you, everybody who supports Legit Football. Make sure to check out Pro Football Demon. Check out legitfootball.com. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football.
I would see Kansas City as a team being on the outside looking in.
That's spicy. Having a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?